what would be our main signals that are indicating to us that a breakaway civilization is looming and that there is a X-Men style evolutionary leap that has to happen in order for the fruits of that technological singularity to be maximized and shared?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean in the way that you formulated the question. If you mean what, okay, because there's two questions potentially packed into that. One question, the way I hear it, seems to be, what's the evidence for a breakaway civilization? The other question is, what is the evidence for the fact that there needs to be an evolutionary leap? Let me take the second one first, because that just requires a reiteration of what I've already said, which is that...
And actually, then it's probably unneeded, because I also understand that the evolutionary leap, regardless, is something that is beautiful, and it's something that is, again, following a timeline of just a couple of decades here of the increasing technologization of the planet and the augmentation of the humanoid to a level that is unparalleled. And so that is clear.
Yeah, there's an acceleration and convergence of technological developments that all have the potential to fundamentally alter the basic parameters of human existence into something that is no longer humanity as we understand it.
And so now the questions merge in the sense of what's then the...
Now the breakaway civilization...
The evidence, that evolutionary leap is to counter...
Right. The breakaway civilization idea, as an idea, is that...
Okay, so this is an important start, the fact that you say that this is an idea.
We could say two things.
Yeah.
First of all, let's just take it as an idea to begin with.
Okay.
Right? The idea of a breakaway civilization with respect to the technological singularity and the spectral revolution is that given how economy and industry and the intelligence aspects of the government are structured, right, where you have long-term planning in corporations, much more long-term planning than you do in government, and where you have significant foresight in the intelligence community, right? I mean, the NSA's computers are about 30 years ahead in terms of their processing power than what's in the public sphere, and have been consistently. And this gives them tremendous projective power. So the idea of the breakaway civilization is that an elite of corporatists, industrialists, people in intelligence would have seen this coming, and they would have prepared for it, right?
And what would be their incentive to just hoard the benefits of the technological singularity?
To protect themselves from a general collapse and descent into violent chaos.
As in the 8 billion are not ready.
As they're not ready, they're going to tear themselves apart, and they're going to tear us apart in the process, and we have vested interests. And so to protect our interests...
Isn't that like a compulsive fear-based thinking?
Yes, and so I'm calling for us to resist them.
That the 8 billion are not
I don't
ready?
like this way of thinking.
Okay.
And I don't want these people to be the arbiters of the destiny of humanity. Okay? That having been said, if we prove incapable of that evolutionary leap, their thinking will have been justified.
Okay, and to prove capable of the evolutionary leap is to...
Right. Now, that's the idea of a breakaway civilization. The empirical case for a breakaway civilization, is something that, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You have to really lay it out. And in an essay I wrote called Black Sunrise, which was published in my anthology Lovers of Sophia, I present evidence for a secret industrial development program that extends into a secret space program from the time that the basically brain trust of Nazi Germany was imported into the United States through Project Paperclip. That in 1947, when the Central Intelligence Agency, which was, by the way, co-constituted through absorbing the entire Nazi German Eastern European spy network, when the CIA brought all these thousands of Nazi scientists into the United States, not just rocket scientists, as we're often led to believe, but all kinds of social engineers and psychologists and so forth. And when the corporatists who were funding the Third Reich from North America, people like Ford and the Carlyles and the Astors and the Rockefellers. Rockefeller.
You also gave evidence for J.P. Morgan. And
Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan were the principal financiers of Nazi Germany from out of New York. So what I argue in Black Sunrise, and then expand upon in Prometheism, is that beginning in 1947, you had this military, industrial, corporate culture develop within the black projects of the United States that ultimately spawned a civilization in its own right, which considers itself distinct from not just Western civilization, but terrestrial civilization at large, and has developed a very elitist mentality. Okay, they're extremely alienated from the planetary society at large, and they intend to secure their own survival and their own interests. And people often refer to this as the military-industrial complex in the United States. What they don't understand is that it's not really American. It is fundamentally constituted by imported German National Socialists and a few other people from Axis power countries, Italians and so forth. But this thing was basically imported lock, stock, and barrel from Germany, and it has extended its tentacles throughout the military, industrial, corporate, and intelligence world. I would argue that the deepest part of what today is referred to as the deep state is really this breakaway civilization, and that it has evolved, if we want to use that word, or let's just say developed, not to use the word evolved, right? It has developed to the point where it has an independent base of economic productivity and industrial development, probably off-planet as well, probably on the moon and in other places beyond the Earth, involving propulsion technologies that have been kept out of the public sphere. And let me just make a side note here with respect to propulsion technologies. This is another aspect of the technological singularity that calls for a dramatic and rapid transformation of human psychology. You can take the same engine that produces anti-gravity, a zero-point energy drive that produces a local gravitational field and allows for the type of propulsion that we see in unidentified flying objects. You can take that same engine and you can turn it into a bomb far more destructive than the worst thermonuclear weapon. It would become an implosion device, a kind of an artificially produced singularity on the surface of the Earth, which would have a destructive force far greater than that of any nuclear weapon, right? So, yes, it's true that you could put one of these generators in everybody's backyard and we would all have free energy and we would be beyond fossil fuel. And, you could have, Jetsons cars that are hovering through the air with anti-gravity technology, zipping through the skies of all of our cities. But anyone can use artificial intelligence and his trusty robot in his garage to make the necessary modifications to this engine to transform it into a bomb that can wipe out an entire continent, right? I mean, this is the kind of dual use that we've had a problem with in terms of nuclear energy throughout the 20th century. The potential for misuse here is of another order of magnitude altogether. It's far more dangerous than turning a nuclear power plant into the basis for development of a nuclear weapon. And it's much easier to do. And the technology will be much more ubiquitous, and the know-how to transform that energy device into a weapon will also be much more ubiquitous. So again, until and unless we can make this evolutionary leap, as cynical as it may sound, the breakaway civilization is entirely justified in concealing this kind of propulsion technology.